Good evening. I'm honored to be here at one of the finest institutions in the country. I grew up in Florida. I went to school at UF, and my family still lives here. Even though I now live in LA, I still consider Florida my home. Thanks for having me. Not too long ago, my in-laws were visiting us in California, and my father-in-law, a retired high school teacher, was sitting at the dining room table with my 10-year-old son, Calder, helping him with his homework. While I was sitting in the adjacent room, I could overhear their entertaining conversations between my father-in-law and my son. My father-in-law, while he was simultaneously helping him with his homework, he was attempting to impart some adult wisdom about life upon my son. So when I got up to go to the kitchen, my son ran over to me and he whispered to me, he said, "Dad, can you tell Grampy I don't want to understand my homework. I just want to get it done." Just get it done. Sound familiar? Ironically, as I thought about that, it just might be the perfect way to describe my life. But before telling you my story, I want to first congratulate all of you here today for your success and getting it done. Congratulations. When my father was a teenager, he immigrated to this country just after World War II. He came from a poor peasant farming family in southern Italy. Like many immigrants, my dad became a blue-collar, working-class U.S. citizen. He worked for the U.S. Post Office. He sold peanuts at Miami Dolphin football games. He worked in construction. He basically did whatever he could to earn money. Sometimes he worked 3 jobs at once. As a kid, I remember waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning, hearing him leave for work for his job as a mailman. He left early, he left really early, so he could race through his mail delivery route and finish early enough to be on time for a second job. He would have his coworkers clock him out at the proper time for his first job, but several hours into his second job. He had 4 young kids to care for, and my mother, who was dying of cancer. My dad faced the realization that he soon would be raising 4 young kids by himself. His dream of owning a family restaurant seemed to get further and further out of reach as he struggled to earn enough money to survive and keep his family together. I was 9 years old, about my son's age now, and the oldest of 4 kids when my mom passed away. By the time I was a junior in high school, my father lost his job as the manager of a pool cleaning business. With almost no opportunities for work, he borrowed a small amount of money, and he moved his family from Miami to Winter Haven, Florida. With everything he owned, he opened a very small Italian-style, or family-style Italian restaurant. My dad loved to cook, and he was really good at it. Somehow, desperation led my father to what he did best, and his restaurant was an immediate success. My dad took a big risk. Some might even say he took a foolish risk, but that never occurred to him. Shortly after he opened the restaurant, realizing that he was going to be successful. My dad would parade around the house talking to himself. I should have done this a long time ago. We should have done this way 10 years ago. His seemingly foolish risk to make ends meet paid off financially, but more importantly, he was fulfilling a lifelong dream. He was working as hard as ever, but he was happy. After 30 plus years in the restaurant business and achieving overwhelming success, my father retired last year. It took my dad a lifetime, but he got it done. Before the restaurant, when I was young, my dad would often pick me up after school and take me with him to one of his extra jobs doing small construction projects. I always thought I was helping him, and actually he was just babysitting. I used to think my dad was an architect, and like a lot of kids, I just wanted to be like my dad. So at a very early age, I decided I would be an architect. By the time I began high school, I realized that in order to become an architect, I would have to attend college. Truth be told, I had no interest in attending college. However, I realized that it was necessary if I wanted to become an architect, so I decided to go. No one in my entire family had ever been to college before, and let's just say in high school, I was not really considered college material, not by my teachers or my family. Besides the girls and playing sports, I really had no interest in school. Nobody believed I'd ever attend college, and my family knew nothing about it. So I received neither guidance nor instructions about how to apply. I thought college was the 13th grade and you just show up for classes. Needless to say, the following fall, I wound up at the local community college. Before I began, I was pretty certain I could become an architect by attending Polk Community College. I signed up for the only class that resembled architecture. It was a mechanical drawing class. The professor who taught the class happened to be a local practicing architect. And when he saw me drawing, he realized that I was different. And one day during class, he came up to me and he asked, what are you doing here? And I told him proudly, I said, I'm going to be an architect. And he, with a little laugh and a grin on his face, he said to me, well, you're in the wrong place. He proceeded to tell me what I needed to do if I really wanted to be an architect. Suddenly, I began to understand the hard work it took to earn a college degree and to become an architect. Long story short, like all of you, I eventually received my degree from UF. I got it done. While I was in college as an undergrad, I became obsessed with two architects, Paul Rudolph, who Martin mentioned earlier, and Le Corbusier. My college work always looked like one or the other architects worked. In fact, some of my classmates would often call me or refer to me as Scarbusier, which I was very proud of. Since Corbusier was no longer alive, I decided that I would work for Paul Rudolph, whose office was in New York. So upon graduation and a short time working for Gene Leedy, I moved to New York to work for my hero, Paul Rudolph. In case some of you don't know who Paul Rudolph is or was, he was basically the Frank Lloyd Wright or the Frank Gehry of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. When I left Florida for New York, I did not have a job with Rudolph or anyone else for that matter. I didn't even have a place to stay. All I had was the $1,000 that I had saved while working for Gene Leedy, figuring that should be enough to get me by in New York for a while I convinced Paul Rudolph I was his man. Well, I wound up living in the basement of a house in Staten Island and working for a nobody architect in Great Neck, Long Island. The rent was really cheap there, and it was all I could afford. I remember seeing the concrete blocks stacked up against the wall of the basement when I rented it, wondering what the heck those were there for. I quickly found out every rain resulted in about 2 or 3 inches of water on the basement floor. I used every one of those blocks under the little furniture I had. I remember I used to argue with my roommate who would have to get up off the couch to change the channel on our little 13-inch black and white TV and walking through the water. Getting to work posed another challenge. I had to cross 2 bridges and pay tolls and gas traveling from Staten Island to Long Island. There were several times at the end of the pay period that I would call in sick because I didn't have enough money to pay the bridge tolls or the gas to get to work. Almost daily, I thought about leaving New York and coming back home to Florida. Being rejected by my hero hurt real bad, but the rejection from my family was most devastating to me. My family really couldn't understand what I was doing in New York. What could be so important in New York? Nevertheless, I still believed in my talents and loved what I did. It wasn't easy, yet I never gave up. I felt alone and lonely, yet I continued to pester Paul Rudolph for a job. Eventually, I got the job with him. Persistence had finally paid off. I think I learned about persistence from my other college roommate. He wasn't a very handsome guy, but he was extremely persistent. And I remember, all the girls used to always say to him, "All right already, if you'll just leave me alone, I'll sleep with you." It served me well. Seriously, the years I spent in New York were the most formative years of my life. Despite daily financial struggles, I was extremely happy and I loved my work. I realized that no amount of money could ever prevent me from pursuing what I love. My job, it wasn't even a job at all. I was doing what I loved and I was getting paid for it. My time there continues to guide me. I believe that sometimes you just have to trust your instincts, destiny, karma, or whatever you want to call it. This approach has never let me down. You also need to be a little bit uncomfortable with yourself. Doing so allows you to accept who you really are, dream big, and follow your destiny. This has always made me happy, despite any struggles that came with it. After working with Rudolph, I eventually returned to graduate school at UF, where I met my future wife, who's also an architect. She's my business partner, and she's a Gator. Upon graduation in '87, we moved to California to pursue a dream of having our own practice and to be able to realize our ideas about what we believed makes great buildings. Los Angeles was and has had a history of being ground zero for new ideas, freedom of expression, and the appreciation of the building arts. We wanted to be part of that and believed that we belonged. We didn't know a single person there, but we were gone anyways. My experiences in New York had made me pretty much fearless about venturing into the unknown. I know it's human nature to be afraid of it, but I have learned that where nothing is sure, there is a great opportunity. Hard work, determination, and relentless optimism kept us going. We realized that excellence was not a skill, rather it's an attitude. And you've got to have a little bit of attitude to succeed. Now I run a successful practice in Los Angeles and have been recognized worldwide for my work. I teach at universities now that never would have accepted me when I was young. In fact, I can assure you that I would not have qualified to enter this graduating class. My work is not only about building buildings, but it's also about creating places of experience. I try to leave something behind, ingrained in the user's or visitor's memory. They may not remember what my buildings look like, but they will never forget the experiences being there. This year, my firm received the 2010 National American Institute of Architects Firm Award, the highest honor an architecture firm can receive. My family was very proud to see my name chiseled into the wall of the AIA headquarters building in Washington, D.C. They're particularly proud it's right across the street from the White House. It's only taken me 20 years to become an overnight success. As Steve Jobs said, your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know it when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking until you find it. Don't settle. Here's what I want to add to that. Have the courage to follow your intuition, your heart, and your dreams. Life is too short and fragile. 20 years from now, you will regret more the things that you haven't done than the things you have. Like I learned from my father, never give up. So, be smart, be a little foolish, and believe in yourself. Just get it done. Thank you, congratulations, and go Gators.
Thank you, Larry, for your remarks and for sharing this important day.
Dean Silver. These candidates who have completed all the requirements for bachelor's degrees are recommended by the Rinker School of Building Construction faculty for the conferring of those degrees.
I am pleased to confer on you the degree of Bachelor of Science with its accompanying rights, privileges, and responsibilities. I offer you my heartiest congratulations and commend you to the Fellowship of Educated Men and Women. You may now move your tassels from right to left. Please be seated. Margaret Portillo, Chair of the Department of Interior Design, will present the candidates for the Bachelor of Design with a major in Interior Design.
Thank you, Dean Silver. Will all the candidates for the Bachelor of Design with the major in Interior Design please rise?